Good evening and welcome to your council chambers for Wednesday, February the 14th. Thank you everyone for being here, and I apologize for making you be here on Valentine's Day when you should be home with your sweetheart, but thank you for that. I'm here to advise you tonight that the meeting is being audio, video recorded and live streamed on the Town of Innisfil's YouTube channel. So thank you anybody who's watching on the live stream this evening. And this shall form part of the record, which will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. Number 2 is open forum. We have nobody for open forum tonight, but before we begin, I would ask Councillor Zanella to please do our land acknowledgement.
The Town of Innisfil acknowledges that the Town of Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that the land is the traditional territories of the First Peoples of Turtle Island and is shared between the Anishinaabe people of Bosalea First Nation, Chippewa of Rama First Nation, and Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for their generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous peoples, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges that the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit.
Thank you so much, Councillor Zanella. We'll now move to item 3, which is approval of the agenda. The agenda was produced a week ago and put up on the website for everybody to have the opportunity to look at. I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as printed, moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Drodge. And ask the clerk's office if there's any agenda repair required for this evening.
Thank you, Worship. No, there are no items to be added.
Thank you. All in favor of the recommendation? That is carried. Next, I would ask if there's any disclosures of pecuniary or conflict of interest on tonight's agenda. Hearing or seeing none, if one becomes apparent to you as we're discussing items this evening, please let it be known at that time. Next is item number 5, presentations by a town committee. So we're very pleased to have the Innisfil Heritage Advisory Committee here with us this evening with their annual update and presentation of the 2023 Heritage Property Award. So I welcome members of the Heritage Committee to please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Sterling, and this is my colleague Deb Crawford, and we're here on behalf of the Innisfil Heritage Advisory Committee. We're also here because we've got a little bit of background in this topic. I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker, the real estate center here in town. Deb's been on the Heritage Advisory Committee for years and serves also with the Simcoe County Historical Association and the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario. So what is the Heritage Advisory Committee? We're a group of 6 volunteers and 1 town council member, Deputy Mayor Kenneth Feller, who devote our time to trying to protect properties that are worthy of saving. We operate under the Ontario Heritage Act. One of our other members is here today with Deb and myself, and that is Karen Mahoney. And we get administrative support from Kevin Jacob with the town.
So what does a Heritage Committee do? I've been here before. We work really hard, look at the buildings that are around Innisfil. We identify which ones may or may not have cultural heritage value, and then we go to work, we do the research, and we make recommendations. We do not make decisions. You make those decisions. We do not. We recommend properties may be listed on the Heritage Registry or designated, or not at all.
So what's the difference between listed and heritage properties? Well, listed properties are exactly that. They're properties that are on a list of heritage properties. They must meet at least one criteria established by the provincial government, which we'll get into a couple slides from now. one criterion for historical significance. It doesn't restrict renovations or repairs to the structure. All it does is give us a little bit of a safety net if the property owner comes forward and requests a demolition permit. Then that starts the clock ticking and gives us 60 days to try and protect that property and provide the information that council needs to make a decision about whether to move forward with the formal process of designation to issue a notice of intention to designate. It doesn't restrict the permitted zoning use of a property. It informally recognizes properties of cultural and historical significance, and we currently have 57 properties on the heritage list in Innisfil, with more to be identified. Designated properties, on the other hand, is a little more of a formal process, so those must meet at least 2 of the 9 criteria from the Ontario Heritage Act. As Deb mentioned, the committee does the research and makes recommendations to council to provide specific information about what features should be detailed for being protected in that notice of intention to designate the property. So we outline the property's historical significance, heritage features to be protected, which could be architectural, landscaping, outbuildings, etc., not just a house or a building. That then gets formally registered on the property title as a heritage easement agreement. So structures on the property can't be removed, demolished, or developed without special approval by town council to amend the property designation. And we currently have 9 formally designated heritage properties in Innisfil.
So the criteria for heritage designation, it's a long list. There are 9 criteria. They are grouped into 3 different categories: the physical design, the historical, and then the contextual. Each value is equal. One does not trump the other one. And so in doing our research, that's what the list that we work through to try to determine what, if any, heritage value the property would have.
So we're here tonight before you because we are running out of time. We have an urgent situation. Last year on January 1st, the Government of Ontario issued rules that give us a 2-year time limit on listed properties. So council now must give notice of intention to designate any property on that list before January 1st of next year, or 2 days from the date of new listings. But the clock is ticking on those properties that were on the list already as of January 1st, 2023. We've only got 10.5 months now to get through the rest of them and make them formal. If notice of intention to designate is not given within that time frame, the property must be removed from the Heritage Register, and then it cannot be relisted for 5 years, making it then vulnerable to demolition and development, even if it's historically important to the town of Innisfil. What's at stake? As I mentioned, we've got 57 historically important properties in Innisfil, and those are in jeopardy of becoming unprotected on January 1st of next year, and then being vulnerable for a period of 5 years, unless a notice of intention to designate, that process has been started before the end of 2024. Demolition permits could be issued and buildings could be destroyed within a matter of days. Now, it's important to remember that we're all volunteer committee members who are tasked with researching, reporting to council, and having each recommendation considered for designation. And as I mentioned, we've only got 10.5 months to get through those 57. That's 5 or 6 properties a month, which is an unrealistic expectation. We aim to prevent the demolition of important places. So just one example here, this is a photo of Coleman Castle in Belleville, which was not protected by listing or designation. It was demolished within a matter of days this January. There was no safety net of 60 days to prevent destruction. And just like that, within the week, it was down.
It's every time somebody uses the word designation with a property, everybody gets all worried and they think that it's the equivalent of your grandmother's pickles, quite frankly. You're stuck there, you can't do anything with it, you can't reuse it, you can't add anything to it, you can't build onto it, you can't paint it, you can't do anything. You know what? It's not true at all. You can do all of those things. As a matter of fact, many of the heritage properties are really excellent opportunities to create affordable housing, to reuse, to stop trucking things into the landfill sites, to doing all of those things that are harmful to our environment. You can change things, you can add. It depends on the heritage easement agreement that you sign, and it depends on what you want to do with the property. I've talked to homeowners, and the thought of building condos around their heritage property is absolutely terrible, and yet there are others who think that's a great use. So it depends on the individual circumstances.
Formally designated properties are also eligible for the Heritage Property Tax Rebate Program, which allows homeowners or the property owners to save 30% on their taxes. So that requires two things. First, that there is a heritage easement agreement registered on title for the property, and also that the property owner signs and agrees to a heritage preservation and maintenance agreement, so which details specifically what needs to be upkept in the property that they're agreeing to do. That agreement is only with that property owner. If the property sells, the new owner would have to re-agree to the terms. It's also readdressed every few years. The homeowner also agrees to annual inspection to ensure compliance with that maintenance agreement in order to qualify for the tax rebate. Now, as Deb mentioned, there's some common myths about heritage designation that we're here tonight to debunk. So as she said, a common myth is that heritage designation negatively impacts property owners and restricts the use of a property, which is not the case. It does not adversely affect property values. In fact, we'll show you some statistics saying quite the opposite. It doesn't prevent alterations or expansions to a building. It doesn't require expensive, historically accurate maintenance and repairs like some Hallmark movies might lead you to believe. We're not going to be picking paint colors. It doesn't restrict the future use of a property. It doesn't apply only to old buildings or only to houses. It can apply to cemeteries, for example. So as I mentioned, we do have some stats that show that formal heritage designation, in fact, has a positive impact on property values. The first study was done in 2000 by Dr. Robert Shipley of the University of Waterloo and showed that 74% of designated properties perform equal or better than average property value trends in their communities, and that heritage designated properties tend to resist downturns in the residential market. And that's generally because there's a niche market of buyers looking specifically for those heritage properties worth preserving. A more recent study conducted last year by McMaster University on behalf or for the City of Hamilton's Planning and Economic Development Department showed that designated properties sell at higher values than undesignated properties. So as you can see on the slide here, the peach or pink colored graph shows formally designated properties, whereas the blue or teal version shows the undesignated. The peach ones, the closing price of the properties is along the bottom. The peach ones are all skewed to the right, showing the higher values overall in comparison to the undesignated properties. So in conclusion, we'd like to leave you with the knowledge that heritage designation recognizes the significance of a property in the history of Innisfil, the history of the township, and the families that influence the development of the town we enjoy today. It protects important buildings from demolition. It's an asset to property values compared to non-designated properties and century homes. And it allows owners to apply for a 30% property tax rebate. But the clock is ticking for us to protect listed properties before January 1st of next year. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Thank you, Leslie, Deb, and Karen for being with us here tonight. Much appreciated. Questions or comments? I'll go to the Deputy Mayor first as the chair of the committee.
Sorry. Apologies. Thank you, Your Worship. Before we get into questions, I would like, oh, yes. I'm sorry. It's okay. As part of the Town of Innisfil's 2024 Ontario Heritage Week activities, I'm pleased to announce that 2 winners have been selected for the 2023 Heritage Property Awards. These awards not only recognize these incredible examples of heritage properties within the Town of Innisfil, but also acknowledge our sincere appreciation for the property owners for their efforts in the preservation and continued maintenance of these properties. We certainly have two very deserving winners this year. That's appropriate. I first would like to congratulate Bruce and Terry Chambers of Cookstown and Sylvain Desjean and Suzanne Villeneuve of the 10th Line in Stroud as this year's winners. We are going to be arranging dates to present them with their awards in person in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Waters?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks very much for the presentation. Well done. I would just look for some clarification when you were talking about the sale of a heritage property, that the new owner has to sign a letter, and if they don't sign it, what happens?
That's only for the property tax rebate. So that's the maintenance agreement that they agree to uphold the property in exchange for getting the rebate.
All right, thank you very much.
Other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much. I guess you did. Oh, Deputy Mayor.
There was a point that we've often discussed when it comes to a heritage home, and a lot of people assume that the exterior and the interior can't be touched. We've had many discussions with the homeowners that have renovated the interior of the home. There are only certain elements that are seen more often than not from the outside, and some occasions where it's on the inside, but there's a lot of allowance for the homeowner if they wish to move forward and update the home to a degree. So it's not always black and white, like you buy it as is, you keep it, and that's it, you're stuck with it. No, they're very flexible in the agreements that they sign.
If I can comment one thing on that from a real estate side too, sometimes those updates and renovations are required in order to meet current like building codes. So for example, updating the wiring or the plumbing in the home might be required.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ices?
Thank you, Worship. Hey, you brought up some questions about this year and you know, how are we going to get through these 57 listed properties? But I didn't really hear a solution to how we're going to do that. Do we have one?
Well, actually, if I may, we put forward a plan where we had reviewed the 60 properties and identified some properties that were of priority. We have a total of 14 that are a priority that we feel that are at high risk and that we wanted to address. That did come through as minutes from our committee, I believe in June. It went to staff. There was a staff report that supported our approach to addressing those priority properties. And that's where we are. So we are not going to do 60 by the end of the year. Not going to happen. And we're focusing on the 14 that we've identified as priorities.
And also hoping that the Government of Ontario may grant an extension, because it's not just our committee, it's committees across the province of volunteers looking at the heritage properties.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. To elaborate on that point and put it in perspective, for example, if there's a home outside the settlement boundaries in the growth areas of Innisfil that falls under a designation, we're not looking at it saying, okay, we have to do this now. Whereas a very clear example is in the Talk 2 transit-oriented community on 6th Line. There is a home that we are looking at right now that will be encompassed within the boundaries of the orbit. So we look at the homes and we say which ones are on the priority list, because which ones are going to be which ones do we see the growth approaching at first? Which ones are at the highest amount of risk? So hypothetically, if something is outside the boundaries and it's taken off the list for 5 years because we weren't able to get to it, we know that we have the time to come and approach the owners of the property, whereas something that's right in the center of Alcona, that's a little more, now.
Councillor Saunders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What's the process if you come to me and say, I want to designate your property as a heritage committee, and I say absolutely not? What's going to happen?
I guess there's a couple of things. We would come to you about designating your property, and we would look at it in terms of how important is your property to the heritage of Innisfil? What does it represent? Is it a significant piece, both architecturally and historically? Is it contextually very important? We would rationalize that, we would look at that. And the Ontario Heritage Act does not require that a homeowner has to agree to designation. We would still, if we felt strongly that your property should be designated, it strongly represents the history of Innisfil, then we would bring our recommendation to council, and council would make that decision, and we would have to live with that decision.
Well, I 100% respect the Heritage Committee. If you're coming after my property and telling me what to do with my $1 million house, it wouldn't sit well with me. So I'm sure there's other owners. Is there not an appeal process for them that's laid out that just says absolutely not, you're not coming near my property? Because it's like I said, it's their funds, my money, their money. Why should the Heritage Committee be able to take over my property?
I don't think anybody's going into buying a heritage property not recognizing that it's old and possibly something of heritage value. They know it's not new. I don't think it should surprise anybody if they own an older property that
if it's handed down from my family to generation, that's our families. Why would the Heritage Committee be able to do anything towards it?
We're not laying claim to it. We're trying to protect it. We're trying to keep developers from coming and tearing it down.
So a good example, Councillor Saunders, might be the Sinclair Farm in Churchill that we recently, did we designate it or register it? I can't remember what we did with it. But the idea being then that it's protected from the developer that bought the Sinclair Farm. So that's just one example of where there was an opportunity that to protect a heritage piece of property. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you. The question was pretty much the same as Councillor Saunders. However, just out of curiosity, so then out of those 14 that you're going to focus on, are all those owners interested in being on this designated list? Like, so are they interested in being, like, if you're going to do the research for them to be on and then they're going to say no and don't want to be on, like, are you wasting your time almost, I guess, that, for my lack of better words to ask?
Well, you're right. We may very well be wasting our time, but I guess that's why we make the big bucks. We're all volunteers. We have had a practice that we have used for many years, that we would go to that homeowner and we would explain what we were looking at. We would explain why we think that property is important and why we feel that it should be designated and be part of Innisfil's heritage and protected. Again, it's the same thing. If they adamantly refuse, then we need to look at that. There are appeal mechanisms in place. There's that for homeowners can appeal. But we would hope that if you have a heritage house and you've worked at it and you're proud of the history and the heritage inherent in that property, that you'd want it to remain part of Innisfil's heritage.
Thank you. Councillor Zanella.
So if you have a property on the list and you go to the owner and the owner says, no, I'm not interested, can you not, you say you have a list of so many, so out of those 14, can you not then just drop that one off and pick up one of the other ones?
We wouldn't go to the homeowner if we didn't think it was valuable. We will have gone through land records, we will have gone through the history of the homeowners, we will have done an archaeological, a structural, thank you, assessment to the best that we can. And we would be looking at that. We would try to make sure that the homeowner knew what we were looking at and why we felt it was important to Innisfil's heritage. Not necessarily to us personally, but to Innisfil's heritage. And we would hope that the property owner would understand that. And from the designation process actually goes through, remember, there is still a 30% tax rebate that's allowable for that homeowner.
Okay, but assuming that you've done all that, you've taken all the material to the homeowner, and look, okay, say I'm the homeowner, and I say, no, I'm not interested, I don't want it on the list, I don't want to proceed with this, I'm not interested. Then are you saying the only recourse I have is to do an appeal? You can't take that home and take it off the list because you've got a list of 60, you're not going to get to all of them, you've got 15 right now, and I'm on one of those 15. Can you not take me off the list and move somebody else up from the other 45, 35?
It depends on the property.
In the end, Council, it's our decision. So all those properties come back to us. It can be a very polarizing situation, but I want to leave you with a couple of, from a different perspective, a couple of issues that have come forward in my time here. There was an old jail cell in Cookstown, right next on Dufferin Street, that was right next to the train track. That used to be where if the train came through and they'd throw this, it was a one-man jail cell, and it was one of few left in Ontario. And a developer bought the piece of property and said he was tearing down the old jail cell. The whole town revolted against this happening. They wanted to keep that piece of history in the village, but there was no recourse for that to happen. There was no ability for us to make that developer keep that piece of history. It wasn't a couple of years later, it was the blacksmith shop at the corner. Again, an iconic building in the village that people loved and wanted to keep there. The owner of the property wanted to tear it down and build an office building. And again, petitions were circulated. People came to the village council at that time and protested against it, but there was no recourse. The town council had no recourse to not allow that demolition to happen. So sometimes it's kind of a greater good thing if you have a property that's heritage and the house next to you is heritage, and that house wants to tear down and build a purple, pink something or other next to you, then that kind of devalues the entire street, not just your. So there is another perspective to it. I totally understand where you're coming from as far as property rights are concerned, but there are times when that tool, that heritage tool, works on behalf of the town of Innisfil, just as the one that we all agreed to, which was the Sinclair Farm in Churchill, that we all agreed to. So that's my soapbox for the day. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Worship. I totally agree with what you guys do, so I'm fully supportive of what you do. My question is around efficiency and likelihood and amount of work that you have to put in. So you have 14, which you think that you really want to work on. But have you done a scan in terms of all of them, in terms of those people who would like the houses, would be okay with the houses, and so it would make your job less difficult to get those on the designated list in terms of moving those faster, as opposed to, because they're like, as you can tell, there's going to be some people who are going to be opposed to what you want to do. It's going to take you a little bit longer to get done, and you only have, to the end of the year to get done. So would it be advantageous to do a scan of which ones you could get done quickly with those people who are more than willing to have their houses designated?
I agree. It is something that we're looking at, and we're working through the list and planning on having those conversations.
Any final questions? Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. To explain to Councillor Waters just a little more in depth, we don't go in with billy clubs and shields and say we're taking over the home. We sit down and there's three options that are going to come of it. They're going to be very supportive of the need or the desire. They're going to flat out say no matter what, or they're going to sit on the fence. And that's where you have to have the conversations. You can't just go, would you think about this? And they'll go, well, yeah, maybe, I don't know. And then off we go. We could lose a potential property or a potential designation. So we sit down and we say, look, ultimately, these are the rules and the boundaries. It could be a conversation, it could last an hour, it could last a week. But the long-term repercussions of that are if you say to somebody who's sitting on the line, look, we're knocking $1,000, $2,000 off your tax bill every year. Hey, your property value is going to go up by a couple $100,000. Here are the reports that show it. You're not looking at moving anytime soon. If you're established and you want to raise your kids or grandkids there because it's a familial home, we're giving you incentive to do so. Some people will accept it. But doing a superficial scan of just a yes, no, check, yes, no, maybe, it doesn't give us what we need. So we have to have that one-on-one connection. That's why we have a subcommittee in the committee that go out and talk to people face to face, not through text, not through phones. They go and sit with them and explain. So it's always a balancing act, and what we've done so far over the past, since Bill 23 has come into play, we've looked at the immediate, what will be with the growth of the town as it stands within the boundaries, what are the ones we need to save versus the ones that we can sit back and after the 5 years have passed, potentially return to. That's all it is.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I just want to thank you so much for your delegation here tonight. I want to thank you for your passion. Not an easy job, as you can tell from the different reactions around the council table, and I'm sure you've known that, and you're still get up and volunteer on this committee every day. So thank you so much for doing that. And I also want to give a shout out to Deb Crawford and Donna Weiss, who came in front of the County of Simcoe a couple of weeks ago and did a presentation for the Simcoe Historical Society. Your dedication to heritage and the history of Innisfil is to be admired. So thank you for being here. I have a recommendation that the presentation regarding the annual update and 2023 Heritage Property Award winners be received. And that's moved by Deputy Mayor Fowler and seconded by Councillor Zanella. All those in favor? That's carried. Thanks again. Next, under item 6, we have delegations by members of public delegation or invited guests. And we have some very special invited guests here this evening, and it's our Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee. So please welcome Hillary, and if you want to introduce the members of the committee that are here this evening, very much appreciated.
I will do so. Thank you very much, Mayor Dolan, Deputy Mayor Fowler, members of council, staff, and the general public viewing this. My name is Hillary Mallett, and I am co-chair of your Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee. Behind me, I have 3 other members. I have Karen Brown, Carol Ann Browning, and Rick Winson, who are here to be supportive and to follow up if you have any additional questions after we have made this presentation. Your Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee appreciates this opportunity to provide you with an update on our program, of which we are extremely proud and pleased to present, the Breaking Down Barriers Awareness Program. This program was created to provide hands-on demonstrations, and it was initially hosted at the Summerfest for Innisfil and Family Fun Day. And it was advised to bring awareness in identifying, removing, preventing, and promoting equal opportunities in a barrier-free community. We as a committee strive to always improve this program, and in fact, in 2016, we decided that the best way that we could get our message across was to host in-school demonstrations at the 10 Innisfil elementary schools. So members of your Accessibility Advisory Committee donate their time, along with our public volunteers, at no cost to the schools, to yourselves or the town of Innisfil. Our program actually is one of a kind in Simcoe County, and of that we are extremely proud. We have actually been recently contacted by the Barrie Schools and the coach of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Multilingual program of Simcoe County, asking us if we would go and host events outside of Innisfil in their areas. It's a great opportunity, an excellent opportunity, and we'd love to do it, but it's just not feasible at this time. And we have extended invitations, however, for them to come and watch and be a part of our programs as we offer them here in our schools. The committee was pleased this past year as we hosted 5 in-school demonstrations. We spoke to 250 students who took part in our program, and we helped to increase the participation and the awareness of this program here in town. This program has created long-lasting partnerships with Innisfil elementary schools, and it provides inclusive, interacting learning activities that help raise accessibility awareness. The students learn about various barriers experienced every day, how to address and change the stigmas associated with disabilities, and how to establish community awareness. This program is designed for the grade 5 students, and they participate in a 20-minute demonstration that includes using wheelchairs, learning about types of hearing loss, vision loss, blindness. They participate in a white cane challenge, and they learn about various sensory challenges and cognitive functions through interactive play. Your Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee, known as the IAAC, is producing a Made in Innisfil difference, and we can see how these students, these citizens of today and tomorrow, are going to make a profound change in accessibility awareness. Last year, the committee looked at how to sustain this program and ensure that the IAAC and volunteers could continue to host this program in the upcoming future. We met with the YMCA about using their facility to host 3 annual events where the students could attend and participate. I, myself, and another member of our committee, Rod, met with all 10 Innisfil Elementary School principals and/or vice principals just before Christmas, and it became apparent, very apparent, that transportation to outside school activities was an extremely great concern due to the availability of buses and/or drivers. Schools have opted, where possible, to have these learning activities now held at their schools so as to avoid any of these issues. The IAAC actually reached out to Landmark Bus Lines, and we wanted to inquire about hiring their services. Unfortunately, the cost was prohibitive, and liability would fall back on you. The committee then determined that in order to continue with this very valuable educational program, in-school demonstrations were important. Therefore, we need to ensure that all equipment required for this program is supplied by the IAAC. Since 2016, we have had to borrow wheelchairs from Shoppers Drug Mart, Superior Home Health Care, and former member and volunteer, Rick, who comes regularly to assist with us, bringing with him some of his supplies. Last year, Superior Home Health Care and the Innisfil Communications Department held advertising campaigns in the hopes of receiving wheelchair donations. Unfortunately, this did not produce any usable wheelchairs whatsoever. The program actually requires 13 wheelchairs to sufficiently host this part of the demonstration. Currently, we have 3 youth wheelchairs that were donated to us by Superior Home Health Care. And recently, we have just received a donation of 5 new adult wheelchairs from one of our very own members, Dana Donaldson, and we thank her profusely. But with the increased popularity of this program, borrowing wheelchairs is just not feasible. It is just not on. So this committee has investigated provincial funding. However, since this is an Innisfil program, we don't qualify for that. With the support from Superior Home Health Care, however, we have a great opportunity now to purchase youth wheelchairs at a reduced cost, yes, reduced cost of $425 each.
This committee, your committee, therefore requests council support to purchase 5 additional youth wheelchairs this year, which will give our program the necessary 13 wheelchairs that we require. This cost will only be $2,450, $2,450, including delivery. These are necessary pieces of equipment for us to continue our program. We extend our appreciation to you for your consideration and support of this. I'll now turn it over to my other colleague, Rod Boynton, who will be attending this virtually for closing comments. Oh, he's actually in Florida currently.
Sorry, am I there? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Rod. We can't see you.
Okay, one moment, please. How is that?
That's perfect. We can see you and you're well tanned.
And you may prefer to not see me. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, and just one moment, please. My apologies. Technology. Like each of you, the IAAC stepped up to make a difference. And like each of you on council, we work very hard to improve Innisfil. We're well versed in procedure and policy, and our obligation to work within it. But tonight, your IAAC is in need of your help. The Breaking Down Barriers Awareness Program is a huge success. Changing prejudices starts with educating our children and inspiring them to right our wrongs. We've created over 1,000 walking testimonials by teaching this program. This Made in Innisfil program, by rights, should be spread across our province. I even say the world, our country. But it needs your continued support to simply carry on in Innisfil. We're very excited to receive the generous donation from Dana, the 5 adult-sized chairs out of her pocket. But we're asking council tonight to support this important work, as council always has. And by working with staff, we need to increase the IAAC budget. As mentioned by Hillary, we need 5 more youth-sized chairs. If we need to replace hearing and vision equipment, this can be done within our approved budget. But I urge you, I implore you to see this request as urgent and not something that can wait, as the program cannot risk continuing with substandard equipment. Surrounding communities are noticing and requesting this program. While we will solely work in Innisfil, we hope to see others visit and learn how they can create this program and spread it across their communities. This is another Innisfil success. Thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak tonight. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much, former Councillor Rod Boynton. And back to Hillary. Are we finished? You ready for questions and comments?
If there are any other questions,
Sure.
yes, please.
Great. So I'll go first to the chair of the committee, Mr. Councillor Rob Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Innisfil Accessibility Committee has seen a significant increase in popularity for the Breaking Down Barriers Awareness Program. And the program's sustainability is compromised due to the inability to continue borrowing wheelchairs to host the program because of this increased popularity. Recognizing that the committee has successfully collaborated with Superior Home Health Care to procure 5 more youth wheelchairs at a reduced and reasonable cost, and that Council wishes to demonstrate their commitment and support for this important community program, I'm asking that the Council to support my revised recommendation, which is going to come up on the screen. It's there.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders. Do you have a seconder for your motion?
I do. Mr. Drage is doing that.
Thank you. Councillor Drage is the seconder. Questions or comments on the revised recommendation? Councillor Richardson.
I'd just like to make a comment that I was able to attend one of the programs at the schools and thought it was great and loved the feedback from the kids and thought it was fantastic. So I 100% support this.
Great, thank you. We were pleased to have you there.
Thank you. Deputy Feller.
Thank you, Worship. I believe I was at one of the events in Stroud, and I saw firsthand the realization when the children were put into these situations they never ever thought they would be in, with the wheelchairs, the canes, the various goggles they put on, the sensory deprivation. It's incredible. We have volunteers, we have council members, we have Kim Creamer, who's like the heart and soul of this committee as well. We have everybody working together for the just to get the engagement going, so people's, pardon the expression, eyes are opened to it. Mm-hmm. So seeing firsthand, I can't say no to this. I throw my full weight behind it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Constantine.
What if a resident would like to pay for one? Would that be okay?
Yes, we gratefully accept any and all donations without a doubt, yes. We come to you with cap in hand. This is a program of which we are extremely proud. We put heart and soul into it. We come from many different backgrounds. My background is nursing. Rick, obviously, bless his heart, comes and provides an unbelievable demonstration, and the kids are just absolutely bowled over and thrilled. It's unfortunate to say the word thrilled to be a part of it, but they come away with a greater understanding of what it is, because it's not just a 20-minute sit in a wheelchair and wheel around and go to the loo. People have to do this each and every day, and they're taught ways of dealing and coping with it. And the addition of 5 wheelchairs will make our, I say job, it's not a job, so much easier. I mean, it really will make a difference for us.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? So I'm going to say that I also support this. I was able to attend at Innisfil Central, and although all of the stations were popular, I have to say the wheelchair station, the kids seemed to really enjoy that
really
one.
Do. Yes.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that it wasn't able to be centralized, as I know Ms. Creamer was trying to work on, but so thrilled that you're setting an example for the rest of the province, and thank you for that. I will ask through the treasurer, the money would be coming from the council strategic funds. I just want to make sure that there is sufficient funds in the strategic funds in this budget.
Yes, Your Mayor, staff did confirm that there is sufficient funds in that project to fund these wheelchairs.
Thank you. So I'm seeing or hearing no other comments, other than to say that I must send from my office a letter of thanks to Dana Donaldson for that very generous donation.
Yes, without a doubt.
All in favor of the recommendation? That's carried unanimously. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, and I extend very happy Valentine's to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is item 7, which is a chance for members of council to report on different associations or other opportunities that they've been delegated by this council to represent Innisfil. Questions or comments or reports? Councillor Constantine.
On the 24th of January, the Museum and the Boyne Committee, we held our annual meeting, and we nominated 2 exceptional citizens of Simcoe County to be placed on the Museum and the Boyne. So this year is 2, and they will be announced later.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Back in January, the Audit Committee sat down to go over the documentation and paperwork with the town. We have done the wrap-up of 2023, crossing Ts, dotting Is, and going through the reports. Just making everybody aware that later this year, it will be made public so everyone can look at the numbers and see that everything is running very smoothly and accordingly to standard. On another note, County, we met this week, And one of the big topics that's going to come up, because a lot of people are going to hear about this as they learn, is about what's known as the PRO program, the Producer Responsibility Program, meaning that certain things known as ICI locations, schools, we're talking industry, commercial and whatnot, will not be, after 2026, will be taken over by a different group. So the meaning, what they're basically saying is that County of Simcoe will no longer be taking from these specific areas. They will be coming to residential. They will be addressing things in Innisfil and around the county, as always, for the people who pay the taxes and do, but not the business owners specifically. The idea of it is just to reduce the cost, but there's some debate back and forth as to accountability, who's going to be paying the cost, how much it's going to be, and whatnot. And this has been put into place by the province. So we're working hand in hand with them to sort this out as it comes down to it, as it begins January 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committees? Councillor Drodge.
Thank you, Your Worship. The LSRCA just had their AGM, and I'd just like to announce that we have a new chair and vice chair. That's Barrie Councillor Claire Ritma as chair, and Oro Medante is mayor. Randy Greenlaw is vice chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. I attended the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority annual meeting January 26th, and we also elected chair and vice chair. Mayor Little from Amaranth is continuing on as chair, as well as Councillor Scott from Bradford West Gwillimbury is continuing on as vice chair. A couple of highlights from Nottawasaga Valley's year. This was the 64th annual meeting. Over the past year, the Conservation Authority planted 78,000 trees. They had attendance of 2,500 people at the Maple Syrup Festival. They continued to strive to improve fish habitat, plant native grasslands. They put a parking lot in the Nottawasaga Bluffs Conservation Area. They put in an electric charger at the Tiffin Conservation Area. And they dealt with 2,527 inquiries and submitted 800 permits. So that was the update from that annual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else at any committees that they'd like to speak to? I will just comment on a couple. I have been to 2 board meetings, and for the AMO board, there will be an election this year. There'll be a new president and a new executive for the AMO board. You'll see something come out in about April, or actually shortly, and then in April, I believe the nominations are due. Anyone interested in sitting on that board? We did get an update from LAS about the automated speed enforcement, that the resource center that's being set up in Barrie for, it's not resource, it's the center where they process, it's a processing center where they process all of the tickets. It's so busy that they have to actually hire more people, and we will be the first in line to be the first customer of that group, and there's 75 other municipalities behind us all waiting in turn to be a part of that group. So we're very fortunate to get in there early. Also attended a learning session on homelessness and encampments, which, you know, knock on wood, we're fortunate not to have to deal with at this point, but many municipalities are struggling with how to deal with the right of the homeless, as well as satisfying people who live around these homeless encampments who fear for the safety. We've had 2 police services board meetings, pretty much business as usual. Continue to try to recruit both new recruits and experienced hires as we compete with every other police force across Ontario who is also struggling to recruit as well. And just to elaborate a little bit on what the Deputy Mayor was saying, producer responsibility comes into effect in January 2026, which means that the Circular Materials of Ontario, it's called CMO, will now be responsible for all recycling in Ontario. So it'll be no longer a municipal responsibility. We'll still be picking up garbage and organics, but not recycling. So the issue we have is that we currently pick up recycling for all residential and all small commercial. So the mom and pop shops, the hairdressers, the smaller, that produce about the same amount of garbage as a residential home would. Now, CMO is saying they are no longer going to do that they're not mandated to do it, so they won't do it. This will cause an issue, not only in Simcoe County, but all over Ontario, because now these small mom and pop shops will either have to hire out somebody to do their recycling or take it to a depot. So county has decided to take a position to start to inform and educate the small commercial operators that this is coming, and to try to get them on board so that they will, along with the rest of municipalities, encourage the Ministry of Environment to require CMO to pick up from these small mom and pop shops. Schools will still be included. We negotiated to get schools included. So I know it's a confusing topic and there's time to learn more about it, but you will be hearing more about it as we continue to advocate to the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, who we all know quite well, to include the small commercial operators who recycle no more than a regular house would, that they should be included in the program. So you'll hear more about it, and we did actually at the Roma conference delegate to Minister Khanjin about this issue. So more to come. This is just a first opportunity to learn about it. So seeing no more opportunities for this section, we'll go to section 8, which is our consent agenda items. So for those of you who haven't visited us before, the consent list comes with a staff recommendation for each item. If all of council is happy with the staff recommendation, we'll simply approve it at the end of the meeting. If you want to ask questions, or if you have revised recommendations for any of these recommendations, you ask it to be pulled to committee of the whole, and we'll deal with it at that time. So the first item is the minutes of the special council meeting dated January 10th. Then the minutes of the regular council meeting January 10th. The special council meeting minutes dated January 25th. The report from the January 5th Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee. B2, that would be the Innisfil Heritage Advisory Committee meeting from January the 11th. And B3, which is the Innisfil Audit Advisory Committee, January 23rd. And then C1, that would be the procedural bylaw review for 2024. No questions or comments on the whole procedural bylaw. The clerk is happy. No, so just to be clear on this recommendation, if people are interested in the procedural bylaw, it's the rule book by which we do all of our meetings. It's fairly complex, but it's very important that we get it right. So we're not going to be approving it tonight. It's going to be coming back to our next council meeting on the 28th. But if anybody has any questions or revisions, please speak now or forever hold your peace. Seeing none, we'll go to C2, which is the statutory holidays and dates observed for 2024. Seeing none, C3, which is the MOU between the Town of Innisfil and the County of Simcoe regarding the Innisfil Beach Road trail maintenance. Seeing none, C4, which is the noise bylaw amendment exemptions. Oh, easy crowd tonight. C5, the property purchase disclosure for 24 King Street North in Cookstown. And C6, the fire services additional capital project request. All right. Then we go into staff reports for information. We have the YMCA renewal agreement. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a question for staff on this one.
Go ahead, Councillor.
I've had a couple, it's going to go to Ms. Director Bowman because we already had a conversation about this. We've had a couple emails about the timing for KBS that takes over the gym. And most of the residents that have emailed me want to make sure that there's no more time going to KBS and that the pickleballers, who are very, very passionate about their time, will be allowed to keep their time for pickleball. Can you elaborate on that?
Ms. Bowman?
Through you, Your Worship, we're happy to elaborate on that, and Caitlin will just give you some comments. Credit to her for working this project through.
Thank you. Through Your Worship to Councillor Saunders. Yes, so thank you for the question. And we know how important the pickleball facilities are to the players within this community. And so, however, in this particular case, as it relates to this agreement, the YMCA has the discretion to program the gym space. But we did speak with the YMCA as it relates to kind of these concerns and these issues. And we are also doing things on our end to address the needs in our community as well. And so I would like to ask our Manager of Parks and Community Spaces to kind of share some additional insights on that.
Thank you, Caitlin. So through your worship to Councillor Saunders, so alluding to exactly what Caitlin had said, so there is pickleball opportunities currently today at the YMCA, offered 6 days a week during daytime hours, both for membership capacities as well as like a public walk-in essentially. So that's still offered from the YMCA. I know that they're exploring currently some evening opportunities to add some additional hours in as well. Furthermore, we do have drop-in opportunities both at Lefroy, which is Morgan Russell, as well as Stroud Arena, again, for some drop-in opportunities for pickleball. So that's our kind of facility capacity that we're currently running in today, but also outside in our spaces as well. There's currently an ongoing project set for this year for Crossroads tennis courts as well as pickleball. So that's a resurfacing and fencing project happening this year. So pickleball will be allowed for that space, as well as we have Stroud. Meadows of Stroud, also has the multi-use court. As well as the approved capital project that operations is working currently with our capital team for the Cookstown Phase 3 of the community park to add additional courts for pickleball as well as tennis. And as well as, lastly, currently approved would be in the subdivision at Sandy Cove would be another development looking. So we're definitely in tune of what's happening in the pickleball world, and we're actively looking for those solutions and getting implementations in place. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Hope that helps them out.
Thank you, Chris and Caitlin, and thank you, Director Bowman, for that complete answer. Next is D2, building permits issues Q4 update. Next is a single source purchase for the IRC compressor replacement. Next is a municipal law activity 2023 review and update. And there's no bylaws. And so F1 is correspondence from the Ontario Road Supers dated January 6th, support for AORs to develop a municipal equipment operator course. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Just to comment on this, I support this because as Councillor Drodge would know, that when we started many moons ago in the trades, things were a lot different. And as things evolve, education is very much key to keeping people safe and secure and coming home every night with 10 fingers and 10 toes. So in this regard, I think this is appropriate. I think it's something that we should do. It would, a couple hours of a course or a book or something simple, just a bit of education, can make a lifetime of difference.
Thank you. Yes, and AORs, I know we support through members from Innisfil. I know they had their big conference at the Barry Molson Center a couple of years ago, so that's always able to support these opportunities for our staff to grow. Next is F2, which is the Social and Economic Policy Review, a request from AMO. I can tell you just briefly that this we're moving forward with. We did one back, I want to say about 10 years ago, with trying to make sure there's a balance between what goes on the property tax bill and what's paid for through other revenue sources like income tax, or in this case, retail sales tax, provincial taxes, gas taxes, those types of things. So right now, we're the province that has the most on the property tax bill out of the entire country. So this is just an opportunity to reset that and look at the balance and the value, and definitely support this going forward. This is no easy task. The last time this was done, it took about 6 years to get any kind of an agreement with the province of Ontario, but every journey starts with a single step. So hopefully if there's enough resolutions from enough municipalities across Ontario, it's something that the province will look at. And then F3, which is the Innisfil Community Foundation, dated December 29, 2023, looking for financial support. Any questions or comments on that one? So go ahead, Councillor Waters.
Are we just approving that letter, or are we approving the money that they're requesting?
Just the letter.
Just the letter, I assume.
Director Melanishin? Or the treasurer, whoever would like to answer.
Yeah, Your Worship, I think, looking at for council, we will work with the Innisfil Community Foundation to look at their sources of funding to help them, and we will be more than happy to come back to council to look at that specific, what are the options that we can present at this point in time.
Thank you. Just want clarification.
Yeah, so this will come back to us at some point.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to bring it back. We have to have conversations with the Community Foundation and look at our own structure and make up some recommendations for council. So we'll bring it back shortly.
Thank you. Next is item G1, which was a letter endorsing the Tollendale Village 2 MZO. G2, support for the town of Ajtos to encourage school resource officers in the Simcoe County schools. G3, thank you letter from Christmas for Kids. G4, board minutes dated December the 11th from the Public Library, the Innisfil Library Board. G5, a proclamation for Ontario Heritage Week. And G6, excuse me, proclamation from the Federated Women's Institute of Ontario. And that's everything. So nothing's pulled. Excuse me. So the consent list recommendation, since nothing was pulled, we don't have to pull anything. We can just vote on this. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Drodge and Councillor Waters. I'm so sorry, I'm coughing into the mic. We have no motions this evening, so next we'll go to announcements, please. Oh, we didn't vote? I'm sorry. All in favor? That's carried. I'm not used to us not pulling any items, and so we have to skip a bunch of items. It knocked me off course. So, Councillor Ices, any announcements?
Thank you, Your Worship. A few things this weekend, it being family weekend. Friday, during the day, we just talked about pickleball, and there's a time to play it between 12:30 and 4 at the YMCA. At 8 p.m., there's a Spartans game. Come out and support the Innisfil Spartans at the IRC. On Saturday, there is, coinciding with our winter weekends, free family skate with the MP and MPP at the IRC between 10:15 and 12:15, and also an open swim between 1:30 and 3 o'clock at the YMCA. And on Family Day, February 19th, the Innisfil Historical Society has their open house at the Knox Community Center, and they title it The Way We Were, so you can come and look at various historical items in the Knox Center. Those are my announcements for tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Constantine. Councillor Richardson.
Happening on Friday night at the Moon Cafe, the Fitzies will be playing live from 6:30 to 8:30, and then on Saturday at Moon Cafe, they are doing a silent auction event to raise money for the food bank. Happening as well on Saturday is the Make It Family program happening at the library at the Lakeshore branch from 1:30 to 3:30. On February the 20th is Youth Skate Night at Town Square from 5 till 8 p.m. Again on the 24th, it'll be Make It Family from 10 till 12. On February 29th is the library's first annual, Spark event. It'll be from 7 till 10 p.m. to raise money for such free programs as the Fresh Air Flicks and all the seniors programs and stuff. There'll be book and wine pairings, a keynote speaker who is the author of Son of Elsewhere, as well as an art slam. And just a quick last announcement is that the Nantyre concert band just competed at the OBA Provincial Band Festival. They're on their way home, and both our junior and senior band placed gold, which means that they will most likely be going to nationals in the spring. So congratulations to Nantyre Band.
Thanks so much. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Kids Dance Party on February 16th at Alcona Glen School from 6:45 to 9:45, $10. On February 16th, it's bar fun night at Lions Hall at 7 p.m. There's sports, darts, and ping pong. And then on February 24th is the Polar Bear Plunge at IBR. Wow. I am not jumping in, but there is a member of my family who will do that type of stuff. So I'm going to nominate her.
Councillor Zanella.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a reminder that Lakeside Dance still has line dancing Wednesday nights, and Saturday is Latin fitness dance.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This morning I was in Bradford with Constable Elizabeth, and don't ask me to pronounce her last name because I'm not going to do it. She had over 2,000 Valentine's Day cards made up from the students in the area that they delivered today. They did 1,233 in Sandy Cove alone. She wanted to thank all the people that did it, the South Simcoe Police, the auxiliary, the members, the Lavender Floral, Eden, that did everything, Sandy Cove Acres volunteers, South Simcoe Police, myself, Innisfil Fire, Contact Community Services, Helena, her mom, she wanted to make sure I said that one, and all the chairs of that. And then after that was done, I jumped into the Spoke, the Spoke, and was with Linda Moyles and had Seniors Wish, which had about 75 people there, all dressed in red, getting Valentine's cards and stuff like that ready. So it was a pretty fun-filled day for everybody. And going with the Polar Bear Plunge on March 9th, they are doing it at Friday Harbor, and I will be doing it this year.
And Councillor Dodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. On February 24th from 9 to 1 p.m., there's snow tubing at the Cookstown Community Park. And again, on February 24th, it's Make It Family at the Cookstown Library from 10 to 12.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mine is a little more long-term, my announcement. It's nothing that's going to be happening in the immediate. Last week, I was approached by Easter Seals. They have an event in Barrie called Dancing with the Easter Seal Stars. I have been convinced that I can learn over the next 8 weeks some disco moves and present April 12th in Barrie. So I will be announcing this over social media and seeking support for Easter Seals. The cause is incredible. I've done a lot of research into what they've done. And you know what? If anyone wants to come and buy a ticket and buy a seat and watch a giant man in bell-bottom jeans covered in glitter possibly do something disco-like, I don't know, it'd be appreciated. Just every dollar counts because this is a truly noble cause. And I'm tired of jumping into lakes, so thank you, Councillor, for doing that in my stead this year.
Thank you. If you bear with me for a minute, I just want to read a short email. This was sent to me from Chief Thomas. Every year we have to do an emergency management report, and I want to read to you after we submitted that report, and I believe it was Deputy Chief McDonald who's responsible for doing that. I want to read you a short email of the response that she got from her submission. First, wow, what a great submission for this year. It was very thorough and made this year's review process so easy. Thank you. I can see the work that you did this year, and it was a lot. You should be really proud to have done all of that in 1 year. I have absolutely no concerns or suggestions for next year in terms of improvement, but would say to just keep doing such great work. I'm happy to recommend Innisfil is compliant for 2023. I would really love to come to one of your exercises in the future. If you're comfortable with that, it would be great to see you in action. Thanks for all you do in keeping this a priority for your community safety. So if you, Chief Thomas, could pass on our thanks to Deputy Chief McDonald for doing, obviously, a stellar job to get from your field officer that type of response. So please pass on our thanks for having such a great emergency plan. With that, most of the announcements have been covered. I'll just say that I was pleased to join the members of the library board for the short story contest winners. Amazing talent here in our community, and every year I get each of the winners to sign my book. So some year I'm going to be able to say I have the signature of a very talented author and successful author. Councillor Ices and I attended the Roma conference at the end of January, and it was attended by over 2,000 members of council and staff. A lot of great sessions and a lot of stuff to bring home. I want to thank staff who helped organize the OLG breakfast that was in recognition of OLG in conjunction with the Innisfil Community Foundation. We get so much money from OLG every year. It was great to be able to show them what we do with our money. So all of the recipients through the Innisfil Community Grant Foundation got a chance to explain to the OLG executives just how important this money was in our community and how well it was used. So I want to thank them very much for that. Just this year, they contributed almost $7 million to our community. I had the chance to attend the Age Friendly Recognition Awards, which was held at the County of Simcoe. And there were actually 3 winners from Innisfil. So there was Patty McLaughlin, who won for her bringing the song Circle. She had 16 nominations, so she was a shoo-in. Also, the Sandy Cove Drugstore won for the items that they do and helping with the residents there, and the Hunt Family Movers, who are on County Road 27, just north of Thornton, who go out of their way to do moving services for seniors. I hope everybody is enjoying the winter weekends. The pancake breakfast was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that. There's a couple of fundraisers coming up. One of them is through the Innisfil Montessori Academy. There's a fundraiser at Three Feathers Farms this Saturday. They're raising funds for a children's school in rural Kenya. So if you can make that, it's Saturday night. Also, there's a Black History Month gala being held at the Taste of the Grill. And I'm not sure of the date. The 24th of February, thank you so much. And I believe that's everything. Oh, I just wanted to add a couple more things. So the Innisfil Historical Society, yes, they're doing the thing on Family Day, which is a lot of fun, but I can't believe that Councillor Ices didn't talk about Dutch Day. Innisfil proclaimed January 20th Dutch Day, and Councillor Divenvoort, or not Councillor, John Divenvoorden, an Innisfil resident who moved here with his parents after the Second World War, talked about Dutch immigration in Innisfil. And coming up this Saturday, one of our newer residents, Loki, and his wife Sue are going to talk about Indian immigration and the Indian immigration that's happening here now in Innisfil. And the Indians of Innisfil did do a meet and greet at the Stroud Community Center a couple of weeks ago, and it was wonderful wonderful opportunity for brand new residents of Innisfil to get an opportunity to share people with similar cultures and learn and from each other's families. So wonderful opportunities for this, and thank you very much to staff this evening. And next we'll go to the confirming bylaw if there's no other announcements. So moved and seconded by Councillor Waters, Councillor Zanella. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. And we'll move for adjournment at 8:21 p.m. Moved by Councillor Drodge, seconded by Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That is carried. And we'll see you all in